Nuremberg was rubble. Nuremberg was completely disrupted. It was the shell of a city. And our wonderful U.S. Army superlatively managed most of this. They took care of the logistics. They brought all the food in, often powdered eggs and spam and horrible army stuff. And they hired all these people to come and manage the hotel and cook for us. And they had to organize everything. The simplest things, to get a car that would move and wasn't completely kaput, to make a telephone work, to telephone to all the outposts of Nuremberg, which were entire Europe was an outpost. There was no place in the world, excuse me, at that time, but Nuremberg. Washington was watching Nuremberg. England was watching Nuremberg. There was no Paris, no Italy. They were pulling up from the war. And everybody who was anybody or who wasn't anybody was watching or in Nuremberg or coming to visit Nuremberg or writing about Nuremberg. Walter Cronkite, later Willy Brandt, many people who later were prime ministers and big British politicians, political figures, many famous Russians who later played a big role in Moscow, were all in Nuremberg. As a girl in OSS said when she heard I was going to Nuremberg, "Oh, I'd like to go there too," she said. Everybody who is anybody is in Nuremberg. OSS's attitude, you see. And it was just the place to be and to watch. Reporters had to get an assignment in Nuremberg. And the world watched because we had been in the paws of this man Hitler. We still thought he might be alive at that time. We had been in his hands, and now here were these people who supposedly had caused all this trouble. What they talk about, nobody can count it, 50 million dead of the war dead, and everybody was watching Nuremberg. And Nuremberg was a mess, and the heroic U.S. Army really took care of everybody. The first winter was very cold. Somehow the coal supplies didn't come through, so everybody wore the biggest coats and sweaters they had. And the little French girls who had been in the resistance, the French men too, I suppose, but I noticed the French girls, they put on everything they had. They were so cold with their resistance life, came into Nuremberg, and everybody pitched in. There was a tremendous spirit of work, and the work was tremendously diversified because these endless documents were funneling into Nuremberg from army cars all over Europe. We're bringing in, from Paris especially, Hitler in the last days, I always say Hitler, he didn't probably know what was going on, had carried great loads of documents, truckloads of documents out to Paris to store. It was getting so bombed out in Berlin. There was a great spirit of cooperation, and in a sense, everybody, including, strangely enough, as they assembled them, the defendants, and the German population, was in some way so relieved that the war was over.